podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
So we had brat season, rat boys, relationship marriages, 4B movement, and all those other things that made 2024 depraved and debaucherous.
We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Before we get started, I got to go and let you know that I did see the movie Baby Girl, which I was thinking about talking about here on the program. Maybe I could take about a minute or two to talk about it. The movie with Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson, Antonio Banderas, among others, and the movie featuring Nicole Kidman in various ways of submission. Yes, it was entertaining to see her. She still looks great at her age. And having Harris Dickinson kind of just working her around, treating her like a dog, treating her like a cat, giving her rewards like a dog, giving her milk like a cat, and various ways of making her follow along in different places where she needed to go because she needed to be told what to do. That was something that she needed. It was a kink, a fetish. So this guy basically played out the fetish on camera. What was funny is I was watching this in the theater, mostly women in the theater with me, and women laughing at part of what was going on. And, you know, I thought it was a kink. We could use more of that. I mean, she wanted to do it. The whole thought that, she might have had multiple orgasms doing the movie. I don't believe that happened, but I think she probably had fun doing it. I mean, in that kind of set, I don't think Harrison Dickinson didn't do a bad job being the role of the intern here and how it worked out, but I will say Baby Girl was a bad name for the movie. I know why it was referenced, but, you know, they put it in there, and that's what we got. Antonio Banderas being made to look like a inferior husband because he only wants to do what he wants to do in bed, which is traditional missionary, and wasn't really used to trying to do anything more kink or more experimental in the bedroom, which is what she was wanting by that point. And that was something to help her balance herself off. So eventually learned it. And it's amazing that the guy that was involved in this was able to go ahead and help kind of work and counsel these two out. So there's something to be said about, you got to make sure you satisfy your woman or satisfy your man in the bedroom. That is very important. I would imagine it is, wouldn't it? Wouldn't you think it was? I would think it was. So that was going on with that. So let's go into the year that was. So much I went into. First thing I did last year, starting off, it's last year because you hear this episode, you're most likely going to be in 2025, so happy New Year. I talked about restoring the dating game and how we need to go back into dating as the way we used to do it. Reincorporate some of the things we did in the dating game. Did anybody listen to me? Probably not. About, not having a chance with modern women. Well, the thing is this. Because of the people that are delusional on social media, one way or the other, because guys are also just as guilty of this as well. Because when you look online or you're looking on social media and you see the guys and who they're with, or the girls and who they're with, or not, right? If you're single and women just see, well, look at this, they're going out vacationing, living this great life and being wined and dined and being taken out, their pretty privileges being used to the max. And the guys, if they have the access, the wherewithal, the money, they will go ahead and now decide, well, we're going to go ahead and I want to have those women. See, the problem is that both sides are delusional. Yes, they are. So was not wrong about that. But the thing is, I think the delusion has only amplified itself over the year. And that's what really sucks about all this. But what are we going to do about it? I mean, the thing is right now is we're still stuck in a place where dating has, I still see people that are out there on TikTok, girls that are just complaining about dating and feeling like there's no answer to what they're looking for. And it's unfortunate. Listen, there's so many beautiful women out there. Obviously, you can see all of them on TikTok, and you can see others that are very similar in your own neighborhoods around you. If you just get out there and look a little bit more. But who's doing that? That's the part I think people are just realizing, well, it's not that easy as you think. And that's the biggest problem we have overall. and I forget where I went to go take her out to dinner. We went to dinner. It was great. First date. And I remember I took her over to the, and I forget where I went to go take her out to dinner. We went to dinner. It was great. First date. And I remember I took her over to the, and I forget where I went to go take her out to dinner. We went to dinner. It was great. Okay, that's a clip that's repeating itself. But what I was trying to say was, there was a girl I took out to Cheesecake Factory. I went down to Pembroke Pines, so about an hour plus. And I remember saying something to her that misconstrued, and that was all it took for her to go and say she felt uncomfortable. And that was the date. After all that time, I was like, well, what am I going to do here? Then there was a first positioning of women trying to say that it's just the year of the nice guy. And I was against it. And you know what it was? At that point, it was right towards the end of where I stopped trying relationships. Because honestly, she was one of the last girls I actually even tried to go ahead and just make the effort of a real relationship with, which there never was going to be. And the thing is, there's a lot of that going on. Sometimes you might get past the friend zone. You might get yourself into a situationship, which might be better for you. But it's too much to ask for. You're not going to just get it. That's the whole point. And that's the biggest part we have to deal with now that is not helping anybody at all. It's like we're in such a dire position right now, hoping that things will change for guys and gals out there to get the dating game back into place. Like, can there be a dating game again? That's really what I'm wondering here. Because on top of that, if the guys don't learn how to have game when they're dating, if they don't find a way to get things right the first time dating a girl, because that's the other part. You don't want to go ahead. There's a little bit of fragility with some of the young girls out here, because remember, there's a book that came out, what was it, The Anxious Generation, that when you have guys and gals that really have not gone out and really fraternized much or gone out and really spent time meeting people, and they stay at home all the time, it's a very fragile experience for you to go and get them out in the public and go out and be seen with each other. And to not screw it up. Like, guys, you have less of a chance to get things right. You're getting less room to make mistakes. And that's the first thing you got to figure out is if you're going to get in with a girl, you got to get in for the right reason. When you're that young, you got to realize you're going to have a limited chance to get it right. So if you're going to do it, you got to put the commitment in right now. You can't just slack around with this and do it just because other guys are doing the same thing. No, can't do it anymore. There's got to be something more. And I hope all of you out there, all you guys out there, realize this is something that needs to be very important in for yourselves. I talked about Zendaya in the movie Challengers, and then it came back out in the light. It's amazing I brought that up again, and how people felt about the movie once we got to it. Because that was back when the movie had not come out yet. And then it comes back in April, I think it was, and then we got all into it. And then I talked about money being always in the middle of any dating relationship. And I talked about this. But I want to go out with you. Like, I want to go out in a relationship with you. Like, that's what I want. But, as long as you're with your guy, I'm not looking to be friends. She couldn't get that. She couldn't help herself. And then she got upset because we wouldn't talk. She wasn't being friends with me. And I remember I was working, down in Fort Lauderdale. I remember one day I was just yelling at her because I was just like, I wanted to get her off my back. Because I was like, you're not going to give me the time of day. I don't want to be friend zoned. And I don't know any other way to say it. So I was just kind of like, just giving her the hard time. That was a girl I remember talking about where I was very interested in her. I remember reading her, I think it was on Tinder. And then I met her at a bar and we got together. And I remember we hit it off really quickly. She was attracted to me. Because she was also attracted to bigger guys. Like, that was one of the things she was really big about. The guy she was with, much bigger, but lived together, financially supportive. She didn't tell me about that. And I never made it a big deal about the fact that she didn't tell me the truth. She lied to me. She didn't say it, but she basically put that out there and just did not show me that she was really not in this with everything above level. But yet she still wanted to be friends, even though she's still with this guy off and on. He's like, hey, now, and that was one of the things too, was like, I think she did talk up to me about like meeting up and like basically just wanted me for sex. just to come on over, but I didn't go along with it. So, and there were times she wanted to be sexual about it. Like she wanted to go and like kind of have sex talk. She was initiating, trying to get me involved in all that. And then there was one point where I got a dating coach on, and she does like the real high premium dating services where like she is like the recruiter, recruiting dates for eligible, well-off bachelors. And that was Julia McCurley. You might remember I talked to her about this.
Yes, men are very shallow. I blame that on dating apps. There's an unrealistic view of how women should look now with all these filtered photos. It's conditioned us. You know, the women need those full lips and big breasts and tiny nose and just, you know, the Kardashian look. And that's not normal either.
No.
So, and, you know, the women are that way too. They want these GQ guys. And what they don't realize is you really need to get to know the person. You can't just judge them on a photo.
Which is true. And I can't tell you, when I look at some of these sugar daddy sites I've been on, you know, not too long ago and as of late, and other things, I just seen to myself, man, wow, girls, you don't know which profile pictures to pick. But I also know this for a fact, and I think I was talking about this in a recent episode, that a lot of times you could probably tell when the picture that the girl is posting as the major picture, the main picture on her profile, is usually from when she was with her last ex. Right before the breakup. She was trying to make herself look her possible best. Almost like in a stretch of desperation to try to keep the relationship, whether toxic or not, alive. And now on to one of the biggest subjects that really did really well. I had a psychological study that was done about sugar daddies that I reported here on the program. And that was back in February. One of the most listened to episodes of the year, The Psychology of Sugar Daddies. Because of the ability for women to go ahead and say, hey, if they want a materialistic, you know, selfish, clout chasing, status seeking relationship, they can ask for one. Okay? A question just as simple as, why do you need a sugar daddy? That question, 80% of the responses will tell you something about, but it'll be the way the intent is for. I'm going to say that of when I've posed that question, of that 80%, I will say that about 5 in 50% of those 80% of emails will come back, I want to be spoiled. I want to be treated like the woman I'm supposed to be treated like. Right, so out of 80% that's there, transactional. With the others being quietly just pay for play. Purely like escorting. Or just looking to go and sell videos or content because they're doing that kind of part. But that episode really got people kind of all worked up. I was really happy to see that. Daddy site. There's a reason why women will flock to answer to you, even if you're not responding back. If you are new onto the site and you're on there and you just put a traditional site up there, a traditional profile up there, you're going to get responses. If you're halfway decent looking, there are even more responses. Because what you're going to get is you're going to get the attention of women that want you for what you have. So you have what's in your wallet. You have what you have in terms of your lifestyle, your income. It's as desirable as what women have as their vanity, as their looks, as their shape. And you know what's interesting is that I've also gotten to the point where, I did something where I got off for about a good 6 months. And then I did go back on and I restarted the profile. So some of you might do a thing where, this is a great trick. You might have the same profile up and you might subscribe for a bit and then you get off, then you subscribe once again, but you keep the same profile in place. I'm telling you should do this. Delete it. Drop it. Refresh the profile. Don't use the same language. Just do it over. Put a fresh coat on it. Redo the profile from scratch. And honestly, if you need to, take a little AI to help in the profile to give you the right kind of message you want to put up there. Use it. It's available. And if it's not OpenAI or if it's not Google Gemini, there's other ones. There's Grok, whatever you want. But use it. And let it work for you to the right advantage. It doesn't hurt. And I had listeners react to this afterwards, and I played some of those back. He goes on to say, quote, "It's funny that you say women are emotionally damaged by chads." Okay, she said chads. But yes, there are women that are emotionally damaged by, women are emotionally damaged. There are quite a few. If they're on the dating sites, they must be. I mean, how many women do we know that, if they're on a dating site, listen, if they were out and about in person and they were emotionally healthy, they would be picked up. Now, another point I want to make a point here is the fact that when you see women that are out there that, when I talk about emotionally damaged, it's not necessarily because of sexual assault, not because of molestation, not because of that kind of mental, physical, emotional abuse you expect from partners. What it also is, and this is very important, it's also built up insecurities. I mean, how many girls do you see that when they gain a little bit of weight and they start altering their appearance, where the girlfriends might, show off in a bikini or whatever, but the one girl that's a little bit chubbier, she's starting to cover up, don't show her belly button so much. Like, I'll put it like this. You see a bunch of girls together and, okay, if they're young and beautiful, they're all wearing like the athletic wear. And you'll see there's some girls that'll wear like whatever sweatpants or leggings, whatever, and they're low on the waist. They're not afraid to show stomach or belly button. But the girl that's a little bit chubbier, she's got it a little bit higher up the waist. No belly button. A little more high-waisted, but showing a little bit of skin. Trying to kind of like still fit in. When those girls feel their insecurities and they're hit in place, regardless if she needs to lose weight or not, the one thing is just that when she loses that insecurity, that confidence in her, oof, that is tough. And that is the kind of invoked or kind of self-destructive type of damage. So it's one of those things where if you could find a girl that you can help pump her up, get her confidence and her security and her image, and bolster that back up, that's very important. And that's another part of the emotional damage that I think that doesn't get talked about much. But it's not body positivity. Let me make that clear too. Body positivity does not work. I want women to just feel confident in their bodies. And here's the thing. If a woman goes out there and she wants to wear what she wants to wear, one of the things hopefully she'll be cognizant of is that, you know what? Okay, I want to dress like I want to dress. But one of the things I'm noticing is that, you know what? I don't like the way it looks on me. It's not the clothes. It's you. You can adjust yourself. Get your body back the way you want it to be. But it's much easier to go ahead and be motivated to get your body back the way you want it to be when you're not covering yourself up. Does that make sense? Moving on, we also talk about a number of porn stars that got killed in just various tragic situations. That was really unfortunate. A single woman being deprived, desperate, and delusional. I talked about that. When they look at this story, they say that there are stories of girls and women that are being ignored. And when we dismiss on how they are expressing their pain. And this psychologist here says in her practice, she's seen everyone from inpatient hospital settings to outpatient clinics, rarely seen men described as attention-seeking. Despite having exhibited some of the same suicidal behaviors as many women, including cutting, burning, or attempted overdoses, we should ask ourselves, why is this, and implore our healthcare providers and those who care about the well-being of girls and women to do better. And there was a girl in that particular episode that was complaining about a boyfriend sending her on a Cash App $30 for her to get lunch. It wasn't enough for lunch. Like, wow. Listen, I go to my pizza guy. I got a guy that I go to for pizza. There's a mom and pop place, right? And a bunch of Albanians that run a great pizza shop, right? And you go inside. Listen, they got a couple tables and a couple stools. That's it. Like, you go in there, it's mostly takeout. And once you get up to the stools and up to the counter, you're watching the pizzas being made. Like, everything in action, right? But you get the show. And, now these days, it does cost a bit. Like I go ahead and order a chicken parm sub. It's $11 now these days. It used to be $6 when I first went there. Now it's $11. Inflation. I'll get 2 slices of cheese pizza. It's great. It's like a bar pie. Dave Portnoy would probably give it a 7 point something. Low 7s. I know that. Those are $3 a slice. Used to be like $1.50 a slice. I remember when I used to go to the same family to go get pizza 25 years ago. It was $1 slice back in the day. And what happened was that now these days, pay $21. No, $19. The drinks, extra. It's like $18, $19. And I usually drop a couple bucks tip. But it's up to $30. But let me tell you, that's a great meal. I'm full. I'm good. But for some, it's not the same way. Anyways, $30 for lunch. I still can't believe that's something that's not bad. But this girl thought she expected like $100 because she was going to go get some real fancy meal wherever else. Completely delusional. Completely delusional. Then there was a dating degree of difficulty and those dangerous red flags and how the world is open to sugar daddies and sugar babies. And this is the other part where America is behind the times. Sugar babies engaged in 4 sugar dating arrangements throughout their lifetime with a range that spanned from 1 to 50. That's the babies. And then for the benefactors, it's a different story. Over 6 arrangements, highlighting a potentially greater propensity among benefactors to engage in multiple or sequential sugar dating relationships. And remember, in other areas, much easier to go in for people to just go out there and say, oh, well, I'm going to be a part of this. That's great. We talked about the quiet on the stuff with Dan Schneider. I feel like his film's been forever. That was back in April. How far back that goes. Then we've been talking about the prostitution issues in Colombia and Medellin, where there were people getting robbed and people getting killed. So what we're getting right now is that it's teaching a lesson for the passport bros out there. Do not go through the dating apps and connect with someone expecting that things are going to go okay once you go over. I understand that most guys probably think of the idea like, oh, maybe I'll meet somebody before I go and then make the trip. And then you're going to connect with somebody. So you'll have somebody that you'll know that you can spend time with over there. Listen, when you're going on a trip like that in general, you should always just find somebody that can be a guide that's just a guide and not expect some, pseudo girlfriend to go ahead and take care of you and accompany you around everywhere you're going to go. I'll tell you like this. If I were going to go to any of these areas, like if it was Colombia, Venezuela, Philippines, and if there's been girls I've talked to over there, I'll meet up with them, but I will not spend the bulk of my time with them. Okay. I'll find a guide. I'll find other people to go along and accompany me, but I will make time to meet with her because I'll have met her and I'll have time to spend with her. If I do that, that might be what I'll do, but that's pretty much it. Oh, that's right. We had the soft guy era. Remember that? So we've talked about it on this program, findoms specifically. When women are allowed to be findoms, okay, this is where everything goes to shit. When women have been allowed to be so upset and angry about things that, it doesn't matter anymore. Like it's just, okay, it's the way it's accepted right now. This is the way it's supposed to be. No, it's not. And for guys to now feel like they can go and do this as well, they'll do the same thing. We had the drizzle moment at the same time as the soft guy era. That was pretty funny. They have the wherewithal, but if they want love, again, remember, when they make money and they have their income and they have their career, they still want somebody to support them, take care of them like a traditional woman. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be a part of that altogether. I'll talk about the online dating wasteland and what was going on with that, which is also a big mess. School teachers seeking their sugar daddy savior. Yes, teachers looking for their sugar daddy because there's not enough being made in what they're making. And when girl bosses give up their real feminine power, I talked about that. Miss Universe, right? Think of all the countries that are always represented at that Miss Universe. Colombia, Venezuela, Philippines. Think of any African country. Whether it's South Africa, Zaire, Australia, New Zealand. There are quite a few people that are, they don't make it out very well. It's not all first world countries. Some of them are not. Some of those Latin American countries, they're struggling. Southeast Asia, Philippines, Thailand, all that. Yeah, they struggle. It's not easy for them. And it's funny how many beautiful women are in these third world countries. Let me tell you, of girls I've got a chance to go talk to, whether it's Colombia or Venezuela, I mean, a plethora of beautiful women. It's never ending. Philippines, same thing. And you can just see why the Miss Universe pageants always have those women in those areas constantly there that they can recruit, that'll be a part and be possibly Miss Universe. It happens all the time. Except for the rare occasion we had Miss Denmark this year. A beautiful girl, by the way. The 4B movement. No more men and no more kids. Remember this? They're talking about the story here. No dating, no sex, no babies, and no marriage with men. The anti-men 4B movement. Fed up with gender-based violence and traditional gender roles, these women are swearing off men, believing they were beyond redemption. Now, some of this also, when you hear that, it makes it feel like, well, okay, so it's all men's fault that women cannot be accused or culpable of anything. Of course there are bad actors out there. Of course there are men out there that are narcissistic, manipulative, controlling, abusive. There's no doubt about that. For various reasons. Listen, men are traumatized and also going through traumatic events, and they also get screwed up just like women can. Right. But this 4B movement, which also got amplified after the presidential election, but it looks like it kind of faded out by a little bit. That was one of those things as well that just went on. I was like, that's so stupid. Now, this is the second most listened to episode of the year. Women forcing friend zone simps into friendship marriages. This was in Japan, and we're starting to hear some of this as well here in the States. The thing is that you think staying along for the ride, you don't really keep in touch with everything that's going on with her. Because at any time, she can go ahead and find somebody else that will find her fancy, and she'll pass you. But for some of you guys that feel like, she's not going to be with anybody, she'll be waiting around for me. The second thing you're going to have to consider is this. At the time that you want her, that you spent time with her, you're going to be spending all those years in the friend zone at the time you really want to be with her. At the moment that you find her most attractive, the most appealing. Before you really know her flaws, what makes her broken, why she wants to keep you on the side like that and have you as a support system, as this, emotional support, because that's really what she wants you for. I couldn't have said it better if I tried to say it again, because that's very true. When we get stuck in friend zones, and this is a couple of the cases I had myself, at the time that I wanted to be with her, that's when I wanted her. But sometimes when those friend zones go so long and like, okay, things have changed. It's not the same girl anymore. Some of you will still stick around and wait for a girl to be, at the very end, she'll finally then make you a priority after all that time. But she'll have gone through so much in order to make you the consolation prize. You don't need to deal with that. Not at all. I did listener feedback about that. And I talked about Gen Z suffering from lack of sex and self-love. A sex and relationship expert talked to dailymail.com and said that men who are sexually inactive can experience a very rare condition called penile atrophy, where penile tissue can become less elastic and causing it to shrink by 1 or 2 centimeters. So honestly, if you're not using your penis for sexual activity, this is including if you have a woman or a man, whoever your partner is going to be, that you are having sexual intercourse with, or when you're not and you're trying to go at it alone. Self-love. So your tissue will become less elastic, causing it to shrink by 1 to 2 centimeters. Wow. And also going a month or more without having sex may cause men and women to experience increased stress levels due to sexual frustration, anxiety, depression, and anger issues. Yeah. Wow. Also, one little trick out there. Sometimes it's not that much you really need to kind of help in terms of, keeping yourself managed, guys, especially for circumcised. Little trick, coconut oil. Yes, the answer is coconut oil. So much what we talked about that was staying single and striking out on dating. So much we were going through in the year. Ditching desperate dating apps or doing multiple partners. So the polyamory stuff came into play. So now the thought of monogamy and non-monogamy. Forbes puts out a story saying that they're starting to thrive. The beginning interest, non-monogamous relationships are gaining interest and popular among people looking for love. They can involve consensual, non-traditional relationships with multiple partners and different arrangements for romantic, sexual, or emotional connections. And we can call them polygamy or polyamory or swinging. Journal of Family Theory Review in 2023 study they put out concluded that individuals in non-monogamous relationships are considered to be more promiscuous, perverted, and untrustworthy than others in non-monogamous relationships. Right, so that's the part where polyamory, but keeping it non-sexual, asexual. Meanwhile, somebody in that group is obviously doing more to get out there and get frisky while the others are just playing loyal. It's stupid. And then I had a story about, are sugar daddy sites a suitable replacement for desperate dating apps? Well, yeah, I'm saying I agree with it. And I talked about it. Sugar daddy sites versus the traditional desperate dating sites. I have been around dating sites and dating apps almost as long as I've been an adult. So going back to Love at AOL, Yahoo Personals, moving on to eHarmony when it first came out, Neil Clark Warren, the 64 points of attraction, all these different things it had, the personality tests that really worked. And then moving along to different other niche sites that came along in the 2010s, The Big and the Beautiful, using Plenty of Fish when it was really popular and free and good, Tinder 10 years ago, and then Bumble and Hinge. Now, I got to say this too. If we can have eHarmony at the very beginning when they did their personality profile be so effective, because it was, with AI, it should be much easier. And I wonder if eHarmony or anybody else is going to create a dating site where AI is going to be used in that same kind of personality profile, because something they had right there was working. And they stopped doing it. I don't know what happened. Then we had boy sober or multiple partners. I see more videos like this all the time. And if it's not this part, it's like, okay, women with their pets. I see a lot of cat and dog videos. Or I see a lot of women that are just going out there complaining and really upset over how much work they're doing right now, what they have to do, the normal run around to go run around traffic to get from work, from home, and this and that, and have a social life. A lot of young women, 20s, 30s, that are just really upset. And there's, oh my goodness, there's a young lady, a beautiful young girl that is so adamant of finding an older man. She's in her 20s, early 20s, and she wants someone that's definitely over 40, preferably maybe more towards late 40s, early 50s. And who knows if that girl on TikTok ever got that from herself, but I remember she was trying, bless her heart. Because we know there's a lot of stigma out there in social media, Me Too movement. It's creeping out stuff. It's icks. It's all this kind of stuff that's been said out there. And we've heard a lot of women out there speaking on behalf of women out there, saying what women do not want, and how delusional they might be about what the kind of woman, the man they want, and what they expect of a guy, which is a lot. Right. Boy sober. To some of the things that were going on here that was being talked about, it's just ridiculous. But hey, what am I going to go and say about it, right? And then I talked about the friend zone frenzy that was going on online, because we had the songbird, the new Rihanna, basically, from South Africa, Tyla, was fucking gorgeous and talented and sings great and dances great, and she just looks amazing, everything what she wears. And how she friend zoned Kai Cenat on a live Twitch stream. And there was the Bridgerton buzz, where the chubbier female was trying to go after the more aristocratic male on there, the whole idea of that. And then we had the Rat Pack, rich rodent boyfriends, rat boyfriends. Remember that? And now I got to say that, after seeing Timothée Chalamet in Complete Unknown and Dune 2 this year, and seeing him on College Game Day, and seeing him on Theo Von or other places, man, I got a different feeling about him. He's all right. He is okay in my book. Good actor. He's like my new Leo DiCaprio. So like anything he's going to go out there and do, I'm going to probably go watch him in his movie, That's what's going to happen. So the Rat Pack, single women seeking ravishing rodent boyfriends. So rodent boyfriends is due to the fact that there in Hollywood right now are a set of leading men on screen in movies and TV that they just have a certain look. It's like Gen Z growing up. And some of these 20-somethings right now that have been featured in movies lately and TV shows, they mention, who is there? There's Mike Faist, I guess it is, right? And Josh O'Connor, they were in the movie Challengers, which I've talked about here on the program here. The one movie with the tennis movie was Zendaya. Let's just make it easy for you. Right. There was that. There's Jeremy Allen White, who was in a bunch of things with a bear and also in several movies this year. So there's a lot of that. That was that whole thing going on. That was also during the summer as well. And then there were a couple episodes I had to talk about with women, single women choosing independence, single, strapped, and striving. It was back in December. I put this episode up, and I mentioned how single women are struggling to keep lifestyle while spiraling into debt, and that there was a quest for materialism and allure of status and attention intertwined with financial behaviors, and that for single women, especially those influenced by the glamorized lifestyles of Instagram influencers, the pursuit can lead to significant financial pitfalls. I did say that. A lot of shit was going on, man. Then we had the brat summer. Now on to the main event, the discussion of brat summer. So the Guardian is the first place to go and I get something about this. Well, the long era of clean living finally over. Now, I understand that Charlie XX is, bringing a trend in front of us, and women are starting to go ahead and catch on to this. The album only came out, 3 weeks ago? And now her new album highlights how many young women currently aspire to live. So she's not necessarily creating the trend. It's a trend that's been ongoing. Right. And there was the part where it was a good time to go and kind of use that, see what happens. And every once in a while, I have to talk about this because it's one of my most popular subjects. Nobody really talks about it. But when it comes to tattoos and ink and piercings, and I've done a lot about that, and that was also quite a bit of a popular episode that I talked about, a popular topic I bring up. I don't bring it up that much because I know it's very sensitive for some people. I understand there's cultural significance, but here's what I said something about it. When I look at a woman, I'll tell you like this. If I go ahead and take an Uber ride and I'm driving passengers, how many times do I see a guy with a girl, a pretty girl, right? And I see them together. And she seems like a sweet girl. Everything sounds good. They look like they're great. The 20-year-old me would have been like, I wish she was with me. But she wouldn't have had tattoos on her. The 40-year-old me now, 20 years later, I see this, and I see the girl has tattoos all over the place. Well, you're not going to have a problem with me being jealous of you being with her, buddy, because she has all those tattoos, and they turn me off, and it still does. I remember talking to a girl today, and I was like, I am so caught up on that. I'll see, she has tattoos on her wrist and on her arm, and there's probably more, but it's like, I just noticed those kind of things going on. I'm like, man, it's just going to get to me and just going to be a part of me, right? Then we had the Olympic sex work solicitation and how all the processors were being kicked out of Paris in time for the Olympics. That happened in August. And then the It Ends With Us saga, which we talked about that when the movie came out. And then it just kept going. God, there was so much I said about that. But I already played clips about that in a previous episode. Then there was Chappell Roan and how her TikTok rant rubbed people the wrong way. Doesn't matter. She had a good start of her career anyway. And then we still kept going on about that. I couldn't help myself, right? And then I talked about Leo DiCaprio and his under 25 limit and how he might have broken that for once. Now, back to the point about young women. And this can be absolutely a testament to the DiCaprio effect. Let me quote here. As I mentioned, women have preserved this baby look for as long as possible so as to make the world continue to believe in the darling, sweet little girl she once was, and she relies on the protective instinct of man to make him take care of her. As with everything a woman undertakes on her own initiative, this whole maneuver is as incredible as it is stupid. It is amazing in fact that it succeeds. It would appear very short-sighted to encourage such an ideal of beauty. For how many women can hope to maintain it beyond the age of 25? And that's why Leo DiCaprio has had his 25-year-old limit until he gets down to 50 years old, and he's kind of stretching that boundary out a little bit more because he's found an Italian woman that sounds like she's a winner. She's a keeper. So good for him. And then I talk about simps, sugar babies, and the sticky situation of cuffing season. Of course, you always bring up about that. Cuffing season, she might go ahead and use this in a completely opposite manner, in an opposite mindset. But cuffing season doesn't have nothing to do with that. It's taking advantage of guys to fulfill their needs during the holiday season. Okay? Because the girlfriends will also be doing the same thing. They will be going along and finding their own relationships for cuffing season, for the most part. So ask yourself the question as I record this with you tonight. Have any of you been caught up in cuffing season where you started dating somebody as soon as the leaves started turning and the weather got a little bit cooler? And you feel like you're in one of those relationships right now, and you feel like, well, I don't know how long this is going to go. We're getting past New Year's now, and Valentine's Day's coming up. Is she going to stay around? Or is he going to stay around? It's a very interesting question. If you are listening on the YouTube channel, I hope you'll go ahead and take a chance to go look over the comments and tell me what you have happening to you. Have you been caught up in cuffing season? I would love to know. I talked about the Substance movie. You have to go see it. If you haven't watched it, I think it's on Amazon Prime. Go stream it. Go find out more about the solo struggles for single women. I talked about that as well. And down here in South Florida, it's very common for a lot of young modern women to be living alone. And, you know, if they can't have anybody that's a companion with them, it's usually like, what, a pet? Usually a dog or a cat. Nothing much else. But men or just a significant other, not really in the equation. And there's so much of that going on. I mean, I can't tell you how many times where I'm out doing Uber driving and I have to go pick up deliveries in downtown West Palm Beach or wherever. And I see so many young single women that are not with anybody. They're not being covered by anyone right now. And that's changed a lot of what we have. Then there was the bucket theory about choosing the wrong partners. A 2022 study published in BMC Psychology finding that individuals with a history of childhood abuse and neglect were more likely to have tattoos and piercings. The study found that tattoos and piercings were more common among those who reported childhood adversity. The prevalence of tattoos and piercings increased with the severity of the reported abuse and neglect. And then the association was observed across types of abuse, including emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, as well as emotional and physical neglect. I'm going to continue to talk about that subject in the next year. Into 2025, as we do this now, it's going to continue. I will continue to look at what's going on here with all this, and it's like I feel like there's something to be said about where women are in terms of what they're looking for in income and what they've gone through to get where they are now as to why the changes they've made have happened as they have. That's one of those things that got to be looked at as well. And again, I talked about the 4B revolution. Once again, it started coming up again after the presidential election. Now you have the 4B movement as a defiant display of self-protection. Julie Mez, they talked to, is a 25-year-old living in Washington, D.C. She's taking up a self-defense class, deleting dating apps, getting on birth control, and investing in a vibrator. I'm just saying, these kind of things were going on. I'm like, wow, people are just getting upset and just really caught up in it. And then we're back to current day right now. You know, I'm not going to go into more into what happened there, but yeah, that's like incredible that we went through all this here. And the year that was Depravity and Debauchery in 2024. So I'm just surprised and astonished by all that happened. But anyway, we're going to leave it there. That's how we're going to keep the year. And for those of you that's been listening in, I appreciate you so much for catching this program and for listening to every episode. If you have done that, thank you so much. Because I can't believe the growth that the show has had over the year. And I've been really happy with getting the chance to go to this show every week. So I hope you have a very happy new year. And I hope your 2025 gets to be a little depraved and debaucherous.